Remember when an African prince ditched his palace, moved into a roach-infested queen's apartment, and went undercover by mopping floors at a knockoff McDonald's? Coming to America turned Eddie Murphy into royalty, built a love story on elaborate lies, and proved you could disguise a fairy tale as a fast food comedy. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about Coming to America. Like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who's ever shouted "sexual chocolate" at an inappropriate moment. Let's head to Queens with number 15. Coming to America. 15 weird facts. Buckle up for Queens, McDowell's, and movie magic as we kick off number 15. Louis Anderson was only cast because Paramount demanded a white actor. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall envisioned Coming to America as an entirely black ensemble cast. No exceptions. Paramount said no, flat out. The studio refused to greenlight the film without a white actor somewhere in the mix, still convinced a predominantly black cast couldn't sell to mainstream audiences. Murphy and Hall pushed back, but the studio held firm. Fine. If Murphy had to cast someone white, he was going to choose a comedian he actually respected. Paramount handed them a short list. They chose Louis Anderson. Murphy later recalled, "Who was the funniest white guy around? Louis. We knew him, he was cool." That's how Maurice was born, the endlessly cheerful McDowell's employee who proudly announces his promotion from cleanup to lettuce washing. It's maybe 2 minutes of screen time, but Anderson played Maurice with such wide-eyed sincerity that he became one of the most quoted characters in the film. A studio mandate accidentally created a fan favorite. Sometimes the compromise works. Rick Baker spent 4 hours every morning turning Eddie Murphy into an old man. Those barbershop scenes where Murphy plays Saul, the elderly Jewish barber, required a brutal makeup process starting as early as 4 a.m. Legendary makeup artist Rick Baker built custom prosthetics for Murphy's forehead, cheeks, chin, and neck. Every seam had to vanish. Every wrinkle had to move naturally. The hardest part? The eyes. You can hide a lot with latex, but eyes always betray age. Baker used shadowing and placement to make Murphy's 27-year-old eyes look like they'd lived through 8 decades of barbershop arguments about Joe Louis. The transformation was so convincing, audiences genuinely thought the studio hired a real elderly man. People didn't recognize one of the most famous faces in Hollywood. Rick Baker earned an Oscar nomination. Murphy earned 4 hours in a makeup chair every single shoot day, just to argue with himself. Arsenio Hall may have played more characters than Eddie Murphy. Everyone remembers Murphy's transformations: Akeem, Clarence, Randy Watson, Saul. 4 wildly different roles, but Hall matched him beat for beat. He plays Semi, the reluctant sidekick. He's the loudmouth barber. He's the sweat-soaked Reverend Brown. And he's the aggressively terrifying woman at the nightclub. The one who absolutely does not take no for an answer. That last character disturbed Hall's own mother so much she called him after seeing the movie, genuinely concerned. She didn't recognize her son and couldn't understand why he'd play someone so unsettling. When your own mom doesn't recognize you and questions your mental health, you've committed to the bit. James Earl Jones almost turned down the role of King Jaffe Joffer. Comedy worried him. His career was built on Shakespeare, gravitas, and a voice that once told Luke Skywalker the worst news of his life. Director John Landis convinced him by explaining the king wasn't the joke. He's dignified, commanding, the only person in the room who can say, "Listen," and be obeyed. Jones agreed, on one condition. He would play it completely straight. No mugging, no winking, no comedy tricks. That choice made the character legendary. Darth Vader's voice demanding rose petals, warmed seats, and a bathing robe is the joke. And Jones played it like Shakespeare. The Soul Glow jingle was written by Nile Rodgers. Yes, that Nile Rodgers, the chic founder. Le Freak. Good times. Producer for Bowie and Madonna. The filmmakers wanted a fake commercial that felt real, so they hired someone who actually knew how to write earworms. The result was so convincing that people went to real stores asking for Soul Glow. And the joke keeps paying off. Every Soul Glow coated head leaves greasy stains on furniture like a crime scene. A Grammy-winning producer used all his skills to sell fake hair activator art. After the movie's success, Hollywood did what it always does, tried to squeeze more out of it. In 1989, CBS produced a sitcom spin-off about Prince Akeem's spoiled younger brother, exiled to Queens for college. Tommy Davidson starred. Eddie Murphy was listed as executive producer and never visited the set. Not once. The pilot aired July 4th, TV's graveyard slot. It was never picked up. A year later, Davidson joined in Living Color and finally got the spotlight he deserved. Samuel L. Jackson plays a McDowell's robber with maybe 2 minutes of screen time. Cuba Gooding Jr. sits silently in a barber chair. Vondie Curtis Hall appears as a basketball vendor. Vanessa Bell Calloway plays the obedient arranged bride. 4 tiny roles. 4 major careers. Sometimes legends start in the smallest scenes. 33 years later, Zamunda called everyone home. Coming to America arrived on Amazon Prime Video in March 2021, reuniting nearly the entire original cast. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall returned, once again disappearing into multiple characters. Sherry Headley came back as Queen Lisa. John Amos returned as Cleo McDowell, now running a McDowell's franchise in Zamunda, because of course he expanded the empire. The barbershop crew picked up their clippers like no time had passed. And yes, Louis Anderson returned as Maurice. After 33 years of loyal service, Maurice finally got promoted, from fry cook to manager of the Zamundan location. The American dream, Zamunda style. James Earl Jones reprised King Jaffe Joffer one last time. At 88 years old, he couldn't travel, so his scenes were filmed separately. The story centered on the king's final days, real-life limitations quietly shaping the plot. The sequel received mixed reviews. Some jokes landed, some didn't. But none of that matters now. Louis Anderson passed away in January 2022. James Earl Jones followed in September 2024. That sequel everyone debated became their final curtain call. One last trip to Zamunda. One last sexual chocolate. Sometimes a movie grows more meaningful after the credits roll than it ever was on release. That iconic royal entrance, the dancers, the ceremony, the rhythm. That was Paula Abdul. Before pop stardom, before American Idol, before Cartoon Cats and chart-topping hits, Paula Abdul was one of Hollywood's most in-demand choreographers, fresh off Janet Jackson's Control era. She was brought in to make Prince Akeem's entrance feel regal, ceremonial, and impossibly extravagant. The result sold Zamunda as a place where getting out of bed requires a staff of 40. A few months later, Abdul released Forever Your Girl and became a star herself. Royalty behind the camera, before becoming royalty on the charts. Long before he played Cleo McDowell, John Amos actually worked at McDonald's. When McDonald's opened its first Canadian franchise in Vancouver, Amos wasn't a customer, he was a trainee. He'd moved there chasing a football career with the BC Lions, but he had a family to support. He worked his way up. He was even on track to run his own franchise. Then acting called. Years later, director John Landis didn't hesitate. Amos was Cleo McDowell, a former McDonald's trainee playing a man who built an empire ripping off McDonald's. Sometimes reality writes the punchline. Madge Sinclair already shared history with the cast. She played John Amos's wife in Roots. But her chemistry with James Earl Jones was something special. Regal, warm, believable. So believable, in fact, that Disney reunited them 6 years later as Queen Sarabi and King Mufasa in The Lion King. From Zamunda to the Pride Lands. The Lion King became Sinclair's final film role. She passed away in 1995, leaving behind 2 queens, 2 kingdoms, and one of the most dignified legacies in cinema. Remember the Duke brothers from Trading Places? They didn't disappear. When Prince Akeem casually hands money to 2 homeless men in Coming to America, the camera pulls back, revealing Randolph and Mortimer Duke. Same characters, same universe. That pocket change, it rebuilt their fortune. 33 years later, Coming to America confirmed it. The Dukes made a comeback. Their descendants were still causing problems. One good deed accidentally resurrected villains. Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Art Buchwald sued Paramount, claiming Coming to America stole his idea. Back in 1982, he pitched a story called King for a Day, about an African prince who comes to America, hides his identity, and works a regular job. Paramount paid him for it, then made Coming to America without credit. The court ruled in Buchwald's favor. But here's the Hollywood twist. Paramount's accountants testified the movie, despite earning nearly $300 million, lost money on paper. Studio math, Buchwald won the case and walked away with under $1 million after legal fees. The lawsuit became legendary for exposing Hollywood's creative accounting. The movie made everyone rich, except the man who may have thought of it first. Eddie Murphy had one strict rule: no famous faces. He wanted the world to feel real. If audiences recognized everyone, the fairy tale would collapse. The studio hated it. Murphy won. That's how Shari Headley was cast as Lisa. Talented, unknown, believable. You didn't see a movie star. You saw a woman from Queens. Her anonymity made the romance work. Sometimes the best way to sell love is not to sell celebrity. McDowell's was always meant as a parody. Golden arcs, Big Mick, no sesame seeds. McDonald's corporate approved the joke, but nobody told the local franchise. Mid-shoot, a real McDonald's manager showed up, with a lawyer. Photos were taken, measurements made, lawsuit threats dropped, chaos. Then one phone call fixed everything. Corporate confirmed approval. The lawyer left. Filming resumed. That tension bled into the movie. Cleo McDowell spends half his screen time explaining how McDowell's is totally different from McDonald's. Life imitating art, imitating fast food. You couldn't write it better. And that's 15 weird facts about Coming to America. Which one surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more retro deep dives. Until next time.